If you go to Las Vegas, you say, hey, can you write me a slip? You'll get into any nightclub for free. You'll skip the line. You could get a free bottle service table. Find out who the manager is, find out who their boss is. You can just do the little Google search, takes a few seconds. Save your own number as their boss, and I'll show the text between me and his boss, and he'll go, no, I apologize. I'm the fastest person to be able to get into a nightclub, and then I'll take forever to walk that 4 feet to the door, because I want them to sit in it. I want them to realize the mistake that they almost made for not recognizing.
The first thing with networking is you can't be cringe. And we're going to get into what that means, like what does it mean to be cringy, how to not be cringy, so on and so forth. But the first step in order to avoid being cringy is, of course, to be aware of the other person, to know how to read the other person. And in order to do that, you got to free yourself from what's running you. And this is where the inner work comes into play. So I'm sure you've heard this saying before, the inner world colors the outer world. The internal colors the external. If you're, say, in a state of fear, that's going to hijack your focus, your RAS, and you're going to be filtering everything through, I'm afraid, threat, threat, threat. So I might be talking to you, and instead of seeing you as you are, like really as you are, and being able to communicate to you, I'm going to see this scary monster version of you. I'm like, oh, this guy's a threat. Oh my God, I can't talk that way. And what happens? I'm not acting aligned with reality. If I'm someone who's in a state of anger, it's the same thing. I'm like, this guy, he's just, I don't like the top. It's not fitting his shoulders correctly. I don't know. And I'm going to calibrate to that. If you're someone who believes that you're down here and you're placing all these people on different pedestals, or, oh, that person seems a little stuck up, that person seems high value, they're not going to like what I like, and you calibrate to that and you connect with them on that level, you're not connecting with who they truly are, and guess what? You will be cringy. So step one is diving into what's running you, conditioning, past trauma, you name it, freeing yourself from it. And the more you do, the more you'll be able to see reality. And then when you see reality, it's acting appropriately. And as Luke's going to dive into here, avoiding Z Cringe.
The problem with the cringe is that no one's going to tell you that you're actually cringing, right? That you induce this cringe feeling. No one's going to give you this actual feedback and tell you, hey, you're being a little bit cringy right now, right? No one's actually going to give you this accurate feedback. Your friends are going to think that they're being nice and then not tell you, and then people that you don't know are just going to let you live your life being cringy, and then at best they'll talk behind your back, because at least then it maybe will get to you. At worst, they're just going to ignore you and then pretend you don't exist, right? I mean, you got to really understand here, people will just think that you don't exist, that you're trying to network with, that you're trying to date, that you're trying to meet. That them talking bad about you and it getting to you, you get mad about that and you kind of get a little bit butthurt about it, but that's actually the best thing that could happen. Because in reality, most people that think you're cringy, they're just not going to actually tell you. So it's going to be too hard to fix. Now, what you really have to understand is networking, communicating with other people, it all starts with the communication you have with yourself first. It all starts with knowing that you're not where you actually want to be, that you need to be improving, and it's the relationship that you have with yourself. This is something that Julie and I talk a lot about, whether you're healing the trauma of your past or whether you're fixing yourself and really, whether you're scratching the surface, whether you're doing deep inner work, whatever it is that you're doing, you have got to know what you're bringing to the table when you're networking. You can't just say a bunch of different lines, a bunch of different techniques, or read some book on negotiation and then think that you can haggle your way or blag or bluff your way into people's lives, because everything washes out in the end. If you are cringy, a 4-hour routine stack of lines to say, to negotiate, people will understand what you're doing. They're going to understand that at a certain point, the cringe is going to come out in these anxiety purges that come out in the way that you're speaking. That's why when someone will post something online, a video that's very cringy, and you'll just see cringe, 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 cringe commented all the way down the video, well, that person didn't upload that video thinking that they were cringy, right? They didn't actually think that that was the feeling. They thought it was cool, funny, engaging, but they weren't actually relating to the person who would be watching that video. They never put themselves in the shoes of the person watching the video. Take humor, take jokes, take networking, any of these different things we're talking about. It's not necessarily, if you hear us making a joke, it's not that we're funny, it's that we found a framework of the joke. It's similar to if you take improv, right? They teach you a framework for the joke. You guys have one of the best improv type things here, right? Second City, or sketch comedy or whatever, and they'll reference the whole apple tampon thing, right? Where it's the break in the pattern that is the joke. you'll reference these actual frameworks. Now, why does a framework for a joke make you look charismatic? Why is that framework or that platform, a way of speaking, that paradigm work, right? It's because there's a common understanding between you and the other person. How do you avoid you being the cringy person? Is you put yourself in their shoes, you relate to them, you find out what their primary driver is. What is the other person's goal? You release what your actual goal is in every interaction, right? You've talked about it being outcome independent for so long, but then you kind of came up with this X and Y axes, right? Of being outcome independent, but also having relatability. At the end of the day, if you really, really find out what's in the mind of the person you're talking to, what are their real goals of this conversation? What are they really after? What are they really about? You'll start to really kind of work out your own inner feelings through it will come out in the laundry, right? It will all kind of come out in the wash of how you actually feel on the inside. You can do this deep soul searching to find yourself, but at the same time, you have to be able to relate to the person that you're talking to avoid that cringe, right? Because you'll never really get that second chance with that person.
Yeah, what I'd say too with the inner audit of what you're bringing to the table, that'll also save you from a lot of self-sabotage. Because if you know that you're bringing nothing or you're just taking, like you know everything you want out of an interaction. You're like, I want to network, I want to get there, and this person will unlock this is what I'm getting. But wait a minute, what are you bringing to the table? What are they getting out of it? And in the back of your mind, if you're like, well, nothing really, I'm just a little leech, then guess what? You're gonna unconsciously self-sabotage because part of you, the good part of you, is probably thinking, you know what? It's better if this person just doesn't connect with me, so they avoid taking the loss of being in a friendship, relationship, business relationship, you name it, with me. So a lot of people will self-sabotage because of that. And I love that you brought up the relatability side, because you can think of it like this. There's two circles. There's authenticity and relatability, and they tend to overlap. And for someone who is cringy in an extreme, obnoxious way, it's someone who's like, I'm gonna be authentic, but they fail to be relatable. They fail to think, okay, who's this person? How does it click with this person? And they're acting in the circle of authenticity, but outside of the overlap. Someone who is the people pleaser, who's also very cringy, but in a different way, is someone who only acts in the relatable side and compromises their authenticity. It's like, whatever you like, I like. It's like, oh really, you like scarves? I like scarves. Oh, that's so nice. And it's just over the top, and it's like, get away.
I actually feel like, to me, both. Pure just, I'm about me, authentic, I think that can be cringy.
Oh, yeah.
But I also think pure relatability can be cringy. One is disconnected, the other is a people pleaser.
Yeah. So you want to find the sweet spot where they overlap, where you are being authentic, but also relatable. And finding that sweet spot comes from also letting go of this stubbornness with, no, me being authentic is only saying this one thing or doing this one thing or this one joke. No, at any point in time, there are many things you can say or do that are authentic to you. Find the one that's relatable. And with each person, it's kind of like playing Battleship, where you try a few things. It's like, that was a little too far out there. What about here, here, here? And you find the sweet spot. And going even deeper on that, comfort and value are what expand that sweet spot. So what does that mean? Say you meet someone new, and I'm sure you've heard this before, be authentic. So you might say, you know what, I met this person, they seem like a great potential partner. I'm gonna tell them about my past, all my past relationships, my baggage, the trauma, what happened in my childhood, how my parents treated me, so on and so forth, right off the bat. No. Yes or no, does that work? But what about being authentic? No. You know, I should tell the person that. Would you like that? Just to hear off the bat all my baggage? No. But it's being authentic. It really happened. No, there's not enough comfort. But guess what? The more time you spend with someone, the more the overlap happens, the more of a sweet spot. And now, say, a couple weeks, few months in, it is relatable to bring up, say, the baggage and talk about that. The same with value. If you're the boss of a company, you can say more out there jokes than, say, an employee. If you're a rock star, you can get away with a crazy attire versus, say, someone going to a 9-to-5 or someone who's just at the bottom of, the food chain, you could say. Even socializing, by the way. You might see it where one person will go up and say one joke and someone's like, ugh, but then another person the person who hears the joke's eyes has more value, says the same joke, and suddenly they laugh and they love it.
Even take things like, say, fashion. So let's say, for example, you want to be fully authentic. So maybe you just think, you know what I think would be cool is a garbage bag covered in mud, because it reminds me of, say, the placenta that I came out of as a baby from my mother's womb. That was for you. You know, I think that would be like the realest me is walking around in a placenta uniform to be real, right? In our society, it is relatable to maybe theoretically, let's just say as a case of example, to our pants. So then are you wearing like the most boring pants possible? Or maybe you're wearing jeans with some rips in them? Or maybe you're wearing pants that look like they're kind of like pajamas by Gucci, you know, right? Or whatever else it is. And, you know, we're from Hollywood, right? So in Hollywood, like a lot of the country, the way that they dress, if we were to dress like this in that part of the country, would be weird. But understand where we come from in Hollywood or Vegas or South Beach or in Manhattan, most of the way that people would dress the rest of the country, you can't even get in the club. Because it's not viewed as creative enough. It's viewed as conformist. And those clubs, they're high-end clubs, they don't want conformists. So it depends on the environment you're in, what is authentic and what is relatable. But that same aspect goes in things like humor. Humor has generally accepted formats. If you go too far out there, it's not relatable anymore. At the same time, if you're too conventional, you're boring. So you want to be blending somewhere between showing what's real to you. It's kind of like you're adding your kind of 2 cents to the pot. Look, I get it. This is the pot of relatability. This is my 2 cents of authenticity, but we're still throwing it in this pot. You're not just taking it and throwing it everywhere to the point that people can't even relate. So we're sitting here, we're speaking the English language. We might say some clever turns of phrase, some little funny jokes. We might speak with a different cadence, a different pitch, a different tonality, a different speed, but it's still English. If I'm like, you know what's authentic to me? I speak Klingon because I like Star Trek, The Next Generation, Jean-Luc Picard. He's bald and gave hope to all bald men like me. So I'm going to do my seminar like that, and I do it for hours. Luke will think it's awesome, but for most of you, you know, with the placenta on, Luke's 100% coming to that seminar, and some of you may. But you see the general idea. So you want to be connecting that authenticity and relatability.
If you're not adding, as you said, your 2 cents of authenticity in there, and you're not being relatable, in a way that's also inauthentic. Because what's your intention in an interaction? It is to connect with that person. You got to find the where am I being me, not compromising who I am and becoming a little people pleaser, but how can I be me and connect? And more often than not, there is a way if you're creative enough and you stop being so stubborn. Now, going even further on the relatability, and I'll pass it to you, connecting with the person and seeing, okay, how do they react to what I'm saying is key. And you can look for tells like tenseness or just someone's a little bored. Like you said before, no one's really gonna tell you like, you're cringy. That's like saying, your breath stinks, here, gum. Or walking up to a stranger, gum. But they will give you a couple tells just to make sure, like, is this person really cringy? Like the ha 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 ha. And if you still keep going, like, ha, ha, okay, cringy, I'm out. Or I'm way too bored, okay. Still doesn't get, okay, I'm out. So you can look for those tells. But another thing, and that's what I was gonna ask you for some examples, is saying things that are like in the know. So say you talk to someone who's in the, business, restaurant scene, there's different things you can say, or like even, hey, I know this person, or use some insider lingo, and suddenly relatability is there, and it's like, oh, this is someone who's on the in, and it just quickly, creates a bigger overlap in terms of those two circles.
You'll start to realize that the biggest connections you have with somebody, kind of like the value that you mentioned. The more value you bring to the table, the more that people are going to ignore the cringe factor, right? The amount of cringe that they're willing to deal with before they actually think you're cringy is because the amount of value you're bringing, they'll kind of forget about that. Similar with the common language and the common ground. You'll notice that people that you have something in common with, and it starts very simple and small, but if you speak the actual language they have, let's say you're in nightlife, for example, a common, very practical tip we talk about just to getting into a nightclub or a high-end restaurant without ahead of the line or whatever, right? In Vegas, New York, LA, Miami, it's a little bit different in the Midwest, kind of like what Owen is bringing up, but there's just a very simple phrase, which is, can you write me a slip, right? If you go to Las Vegas, you say, hey, can you write me a slip? You'll get into any nightclub for free. You'll skip the line. You could get a free bottle service table. Not really anything more than that. Just, can you write me a slip? And it's because the last person that said, can you write me a slip, to that VIP host or manager or what have you, the last person that said that was somebody who they needed the red carpet rolled out for, right? The last person said, hey, can you write me a slip, would be some manager of another establishment. So immediately it could be some sort of hypnosis type of thing. It could be some sort of common ground. At the end of the day, you're literally saying the thing that is going to work better than spiking any joke or emotion with that person, because the other person that you're talking to, that manager, that nightclub host, is literally going to think, I've done this before, to the point where they'll say, okay, so which club do you work at? And I'm like, oh, I don't work at any nightclub. And they kind of laugh, and they think I'm joking. I'm like, oh, I'm not joking. I'm actually I don't even live here. I'm from out of town. Kind of do this YouTube public speaking thing. I help guys. Okay, all right. No, you work at XS? No, I promise you, I don't work anywhere. Okay, all right. Table 54. Can you guys send him through? And then me and my friends will go to table 54, because that's where everyone who works in nightlife is sat. And it's just because it's one line. It's not some magical line, but it's a line that everyone else who has said that line before got treated a certain way. So it literally unlocks this whole world to you, right? A good friend of mine, Justin Ross Lee, he's called the Jew Jet Setter, and he gets first class flights everywhere. He lives in Koh Samui in Thailand, and he's just really known for really hacking the travel industry. He's got a book called Don't You Know Who I Think I Am? And I like to think I helped him come with that title, because he talks a lot about the type of hacks that I talk about in these videos, and it's every single thing that he talks about has a very common thread that he's establishing with the other person. You could actually be a cringy person, and if you speak in the common thread that I'm discussing with you here today, that they will immediately ignore every bit of cringe that you're displaying, because they'll think that you are like them, that you're one of them. That idea of them being one with you will bypass a lot of the negatives that you could be portraying. The travel hacks that he's talking about, a lot of times he'll say, can I get this used to work back in the day, but he would say, on a full flight, he'd say, oh, can I sit in the jump seat? Right? Definitely doesn't work anymore, but for years he would get almost free flights by sitting in the jump seat, which is usually just for flight attendants, right? Or he would take private jets, right? He would take the dead leg of a private jet. He would get 98%, 95% off his private jet flights, because it was an empty leg of a private jet flight, right? But he himself could have been very awkward or cringy, but he didn't even say it with a lot of confidence, to be honest. That common thread I saw just worked very, very well. When I invited a lot of women to these big photo shoots that I would do, Ibiza, Costa Rica, Jamaica, when I just invited them as Luke, they never really wanted to come for some crazy reason, right? When I tried to make jokes with them and banter with them over Instagram, they never would respond. But when I said it's a destination photo shoot and this photographer is coming, it was something like 80-90% would not only respond, but would come on the trip, right? I mean, 100% of the women that I invited to Ibiza, and almost 100% of the photographers that I invited, they all just came on the trip, because I packaged this trip up not as some crazy party weekend, but as a destination photo shoot. Well, that's a common language in the modeling industry, a destination photo shoot. Well, it made me look really cool, as if I was able to just convince all these people to come, but in reality, I did less. I didn't do more. I just hit that common thread, that common note with them, right?
And he's still speaking in his own style that's authentic to him, but using that language, that common language, in order to relate.
Yeah, you can also use common acquaintances. Like, say you met me for the first time, and say I was super cringy, but right before I'm like, so hey, I'm really good friends with this person, and you love that person, you're on good terms, you will give me a bigger chance, like, oh, I'll tolerate more cringiness than, hey, I'm just a stranger, hey. Right? So using that, or subtly mentioning, say you're networking with someone, like subtly mentioning, I know this person, I know that person. This is funny enough, way back in the day, this is like 10 years ago, I was going out a lot in Los Angeles, and I was a nobody. I moved from Switzerland, and I worked my way up into getting, into like the highest clubs at the time. For me, that was a huge deal back then. I was like, I'm going to the best clubs for free, to the point where bouncers, promoters, the owners that would come out and literally get me in the club, and I was nobody. And I'd get him in, I'd get everyone in.
And he was like a young kid, and literally he's like a new hire, this new kid little hire. And then I got to the point where I was mooching off him to get in all the best clubs.
Yeah. I literally only used commonalities.
And he was fearless. Completely fearless. He'd see any club, he would just work his way in within like 3 minutes. It was like a machine.
I would get names, like literally, I'd get names of the people who worked there, and it's easy, just ask around or look online. I'd get the names of different promoters, get the phone numbers, and I would just text them saying, hey, I'm coming, it's me, my friends, here's the guy-girl ratio, so on and so forth. And I would show up alone, meet people right outside the venue, walk right up, ask for the person. I'm like, hey, you know, say it's like, hey, Sean, is Sean there? Get in like that. I'm like, here's me and my crew, walk in. Then I'd get to know all the other people's names in there, and I would just use their names at all times. Different clubs mention the names, and it was just this whole networking through commonalities to the point where everyone thought I was this big deal and I was just some broke kid, and they would just get me in everywhere because I knew the people who were on the in, and they'd see me with the people who were on the in.
Yeah, one of the easiest hacks with that, to kind of take it to a really like brass tacks practical level, is you can text yourself, right? This is a little bit more gray hat, if you will, but for a long time, we would you could just type into Facebook, manager at Lavo, manager at Tao, cocktail waitress at wherever, sommelier at, you know, this Napa, you know, Domaine Carneros winery or whatever, right? I do this a lot in Napa and places like that. And you can, you know, online the acronym is SWIM, someone who isn't me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit of a gray hat thing is to find out who the manager is, find out who their boss is. You can just do the little Google search, takes a few seconds. Save your own number as their boss, because when you walk up to the venue, what's going to end up happening is they're going to say, oh, okay, you know Jack? You're like, I just said I know Jack. I just asked for him. He's waiting for me. Okay, have him text you. And you go, oh, okay, you really want to play this game with me? You want to have Jack message me, and then, because you don't believe that I did. Okay. And then you just text yourself.
I love the fake outrage.
Oh, you gotta sell it, right? With it, like, no, I mean, if
How dare you?
yeah, no, I mean, I'll get full placenta on the guy. You have no idea. I'm like, I'm gonna rip this placenta bag right off now, sir. Okay. But no, this technique, right? You have to realize, right? You have to bring something to the table. My favorite quote or meme that I have saved somewhere in my phone is, I know what I bring to the table, so I don't mind eating alone, right? You have to decide, why on earth would somebody ever actually want to connect with you? Why would they ever want to network with you? Because you made a joke? Because you vibed? What's a vibe or a joke, right? That's a neat tool for you to actually start building charisma. But at a certain point, there has to be a practical reason. You have to be able to write down on a piece of paper, why on earth would this person want to connect with you, right? Commonality, mutual friends. You've got to create this long list of reasons why you are worthy of that person, not thinking you're cringy, right? And this technique, real quick, just to kind of wrap this point up, because it's part joke, but it's also part something that I did quite often. Because right after I do this text gambit, right, I end up meeting Jack. And for those of you that missed it, you save the manager's name as your own phone number. You text yourself, and then you delete all the double texts, because it's going to just show up as a sent text as well. So if you just delete the sent text and you respond back to yourself, you can create this entire thread of communication with you with the manager. I'll sometimes get a little aggressive with it, and I'll start then saying, you know, I'll tell the guy who's in front of me, you didn't believe me. I go, you know, you really didn't believe me, did you? And I'll show the text between me and his boss, and he'll go, no, I apologize. And I'll go, you know, he's my friend. I mean, you're really, like, what if he asks about you? Oh man, please just say I did a good job. Don't mention this. I'm going, 1 second. Just give me a second. I'm the fastest person to be able to get into a nightclub, and then I'll take forever to walk that 4 feet to the door, because I want them to sit in it. I want them to realize the mistake that they almost made for not recognizing. So I'll be like, yo, Jack, just so you know, I mean, can you come out and get me next time? Because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus or anything. I'll look at the guy.
So one thing that you said here that I loved is really ask yourself, what am I bringing to the table? So that could be commonality, so on and so forth, and value. And I want to bring up you could say, sadder part of this, which is sometimes you're just not meant to connect with that person at all. Meaning, if you do the audit and you're looking at it, you're like, well, I have very little value I'm bringing to the table realistically in this context. I can throw on some commonalities, I can, you know, bring the Jack text, so on and so forth, but overall, I have very low value. Then guess what? You're not there yet, and nor should you be, and you gotta accept that. Sometimes those two circles just don't overlap, and that's where you gotta get to work and become someone who has enough value so that it does make sense to connect with that person. If you're like, well, I want to network with Richard Branson, and you're a little barista in a coffee bean, which I have been, so I can say it, and you're like, well, I'm just going to go up and use the Jack text on Richard Branson and speak his lingo, you know, virgin, yeah, and just go up. Like, guess what? You're not meant to connect with Richard Branson.
Yeah, because he's got people that know about the Jack text that stop you from meeting him.
It's like another Jack text.
No, I mean, because I've done this before, right? I almost got too good at this for my own good a little bit. And then I started meeting these people and getting myself in these situations that I just... When I first met Dan Bilzerian, it was like this, right? I met Dan Bilzerian 3 times before we became friends. And the first 2, I just got out of the situation, kind of like, please don't remember me, because this is weird. I remember it was just really, like, I thought I would connect. Okay, so the first time we're at the Delano, right? And I was with a good friend of mine who's a personal injury lawyer. And we were, you're smiling as if it's going to
I'm
sound
laughing because a lot of time people meet me and I tell them to DM me, and they've been DMing me for years, all this crazy stuff. And so they're like, so I'm like, DM me, and they're like, can we do text? And I'm like, no, just DM me. And they're like, can we do text, please? I'm like, just DM me. I don't check my text. And then they DM me, and then you see all this like pages of crazy stuff.
Hey, so great to meet you. Why are you not responding?
Yeah.
You know the best part about DM instead of text is, Mike and I we use this feature so much, is the unsend feature.
Yeah.
So in text, you can't really unsend a text. That's one thing we used to always say, right? Well, in DMs, you can just unsend it. And then when they later go look at it, there's nothing, right? But I just remember sending Dan Bilzerian. So Dan Bilzerian walked into Delano with the woman from Baywatch, Pamela Anderson, with Ryan Seacrest, and a bunch of other kind of known people. And then I was with my lawyer friend of mine, right? And he always sends people shots, and he's a big drinker, right? And at a certain point, he uses it to kind of lube up the interaction. And then he was like, oh, what should we do over here? I was like, oh, let's do the shot thing. And so he sent over like 50 different shots of 1942, a bottle of champagne, and Dan doesn't really drink. Right? And he tried to impress them, and almost nobody in that entire group drank alcohol. They all smoked weed. So all of our alcohol just sat there and actually did nothing. Like, they just didn't even look at it. They almost didn't even realize who sent it over, what the purpose was, right? I mean, you have to really understand. Take the Richard Branson example. I know someone in San Francisco that met Richard Branson, and the first couple times he met Richard Branson, he tried to offer all this value. And at the end of the day, he actually connected with Richard's publicist. And it was years late. I remember it was years later at a talk in San Francisco that they gave, and it was my friend's a restaurateur, like a restaurant owner, and he didn't own restaurants at the time. But then after several years, Richard came back, and he turned himself into somebody that Richard's people would actually want to connect with, right? Because he was a known restaurateur in San Francisco at that point. What you really have to understand, because I would first kind of argue you at that point of you have to build yourself into that person, because I want to say, no, the techniques can get you there. The techniques you can be best friends with Dan Bilzerian. You can be good friends with Richard Branson through the techniques. Well, you can meet these people, but if you're not the person that they would actually want to connect with anyway, those people that you want to connect with, in fact, the only people you really should be networking with and want to connect with, they'll see right through if you're not the person that they actually should be knowing. Then that's what you really have to understand is you have to be on this path of turning yourself into that person that they would naturally want to meet anyway, with no gimmick, with no trick.
Don't get too paranoid with it either. Well, what if that's not 100% authentic? How do I know if it's authentic? Is me, moving my finger authentic, right? And just getting over the top paranoid with authentic? No. You could even argue, who knows what is authentic? From the moment you're born, everything's done in reaction, you could say, and we're just all fake and inauthentic. Who knows? Don't get too paranoid with it. Basically, feel good. Don't compromise who you are. It's like, I want to say yes, but I'm saying no. This is really not me expressing myself, genuinely. So follow the feel good. Look for the connection. Get out of just me, and focus on the other person. Learn how to read the other person. Learn that is, please stop being cringy. Please stop being cringy. They'll give you a couple tells. Learn how to read it. If they're tensing up or if they just look bored, learn how to read people. And then look for, okay, right now I'm not in that sweet spot. Let me tweak it. But then also sometimes, as we mentioned, accept that no matter what you do, those circles don't overlap. It's not someone you're meant to connect with either at all just due to natural chemistry, or you just haven't built up the right amount of value yet. You aren't the person who they're meant to be with, in which case, get to work. So to recap, dive deep, free yourself from past trauma, conditioning, all this stuff you project out there, start seeing reality for what it is. Also, by releasing this, you'll get out of your head where you'll be able to focus on the other person as opposed to micromanaging every little thing you say or do, like, is this good enough? What am I saying? What about this? You'll be present with the person in the interaction. meet them on common ground, analyze the value you're bringing to the table, look for the lingo. Oh, do we have any commonalities, different people in common, so on and so forth, and then basically connect. To wrap it, just connect.
Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.